Hello fellow crafters, this is Gosha from greetingsbygosha.com, and today I'd like to show you how to make this pretty You Are Amazing card featuring the new Cottage Greetings stamp set. It's a very pretty stamp set and there's a beautiful card kit that goes with it in the catalog. And I've used my Papillon Potpourri. This one I've had and it's just so useful so often. Really love it. And then I'm using the U Thinlet from Hello You Thinlits. I've got my card base. It's Sahara Sand, but I'm going to start with the middle layer. So here's the standard card base, and then I've got a sheet of Whisper White cut just 1/8 of an inch smaller. So the card base is your standard 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, or 5 1/2 by 8 1/2 folded in half. This one is just 1/8 of an inch smaller in each direction, and I'm going to start with that. And then I've got my color stack, the new In Colors, which are wonderful, and I've used the polka dots, and I've also used the stripes. Now the stripes I had to cut diagonally because the paper is actually printed diagonal, but I wanted them straight, so I just cut it diagonally from the center. And we're just going to use our fast fuse. It would help if I used it in the correct direction. And I like to make sure I get all 4 corners and just a little bit on the long edges. And when I put down a sheet, I'm going to make sure the side borders are even. I know I've cut this so just a little bit smaller. So when the side borders are even, then I know how big to make the border at the top. And it's not as important with a card that I've made shorter, a lot shorter than this, but if I was making it to exact borders, then I just watch these 2 corners, make sure that the edges are even, and then I know my bottom is going to come out correctly. Oh, let me find my other piece here. So this one is cut also to the correct width, and it's going to overlap a little bit. So here's my fast fuse. And just a tiny bit. And again, I'm going to just make sure that the border is about the same as it was at the top. And there we go. And now I'm going to take my ribbon, and to put a ribbon around the card, I find the easiest way is just to go ahead and tape on the ends of the ribbon. And do use something to protect your table because you will get tape. The tape is a little bit wider than my ribbon in this case. And I've chosen to go with a very kind of monochromatic look here, but you could use your Sahara Sand colored ribbon or white. And I'm actually cheating a little bit. This is an old pool party ribbon I have, but because it's shiny I can cheat with the color. Let me show you what pool party would look like. I don't know if you can tell on the camera, but it's a lot bluer. But the ribbon, because it's shiny, it catches the light differently, and I can use that. So now I need 2 circles, and I'm going to cut one out of the Whisper White cardstock and one out of my Mint Macaron, and they're both going to be the 2 1/2 inch circle. Oops. And now I just need my Sizzix machine, and we're going to cut our Hello You sentiment out. Don't forget to use your platform, your acrylic platform. And then this looks like it might not fit, but it actually fits very well because the cutting edge is inside the edge of the Thinlits. So don't be afraid that it's going to hang off the edge. Just center it as well as you can. And if the edges are touching, that's okay. It's going to come out just perfect. And sometimes I like to just take a piece of scrap paper on top just to make sure it gives me a good clean cut. And you're going to see that it fit just right. I'm going to very carefully take that out. Perfect. Okay. So we're going to hold this aside, and I'm just going to attach this to my circle. Now, in order to do this, I'm going to have a lot of little pieces. Oh, I want to make sure I do it on the correct side. That are not going to have fast fuse on them. And I'll show you how we make sure that those are all safely attached. So I'm going to center this very carefully. And you might want to have a little bit of an edge sticking out, but I'm going to center mine. More or less. Okay. Now I'm going to have these little pieces here are not taped down, so I'll show you how I deal with those because I don't want them flopping around. I don't want them to get torn off. So I'm just going to take a little piece of scrap paper and I'm going to put a little bit of my favorite glue. I'm using Crystal Effects today, and I've got my pokey tool. Just dip the pokey tool, lift and under, and I'm spreading it a little bit on the pokey tool. Very little is all I need. I'm just going to lift it a little bit, get it under there, and push it down. And again. And I'm just going to go all the way around and just glue down any little bits that stick out or that might get torn or bent if they're loose. Now I'm going to use the same technique to fill in all the holes in the writing. So I'm going to use my pokey tool, or you can use your craft tool or your ball tool to push out the shapes. And I'm going to do them one at a time from my shape there because I don't want to lose them. I'm going to make sure I have the correct side sticking up, which is the back side. And again, a little bit of glue. I'm going to spread it around. If I have too much glue on my pokey tool, I just roll it off like that. And I spread it on, pick this up, place it right where I want it, and then just push it down. And the nice thing about using the Crystal Effects is it's a little bit forgiving. You can just slide that shape into place if you don't have it quite right. And again, I'm just going to poke the little shape out, place it with the back side up, a little bit of glue, turn this over, put it right where I want it. There you go. Find that next little piece is right here. Okay. And once in a while you might want to clean off your pokey tool a little bit. It'll get a little bit of glue dried on there. Tiniest little drop. Now I've skipped over filling in the loop on the Y, but I want to show you the loop on the U because it's such a tiny piece, and I do want you to feel confident that you can use this technique to work even the tiniest little things that you want to glue onto your crafts. There. Now all the pieces are filled in, and I can layer my card. Always be careful with where this glue paper goes. Make sure it doesn't end up on the back of your card or the back of your sleeve. I can layer my card like this. I can pop this up here with dimensionals, and I can leave the card without all the extra colors if I want to make it more clean and simple. Let's just put on the sentiment. So again, I'm going to take a scrap piece of paper and my sentiment. Now this sentiment actually says "You are amazing," but I already have the "you," so I only want the "are amazing" part. And there's a couple of ways you can do this. If you're using the new really soft ink pads, you can just look sideways and just make sure you're only inking up the part that you want. And a couple of taps and it's done. If I already had used this with other colors, I wasn't sure it was exactly clean, then I could ink it up and then put a little piece of Scotch tape over the "U," so then I would get a very clean image. But this worked very well. I've got my "are amazing," and now I just take my word window punch center that. And again, this would make a lovely card just like that. But I'd like to give it just a little more detail, so I'm going to choose one of my two base colors to make a little flag for the sentiment, and you can see that either color will go equally well. And I'm going to choose to do the mint macaron. So I've cut these strips. This is 3/8 of an inch, so I've cut this just a little bit wider at about 1/2 an inch. And I'm just going to put it there. Now we have a triple banner punch you can make a flag with, or you can use the end of a square punch. I just like cutting my flags by hand. Just aim for the center. Perfect. Now, I actually want a little more detail than that, so I'm going to add my third piece of designer paper, and it's going to go under here. And this is cut about 2.5 inches by about 4 3/4 inches, and that goes down there. And here's how I like it. The one last thing I'm going to do, though, I'm not going to tape these down flat. I'm going to use my dimensionals, and I'm going to kind of pop these things up double. So this actually is going to go flat. I'm going to grab my snail tape instead of my fast fuse. They're both handy and I like them both. So here we go. This one just gets dimensionals. Oops. And I'll put that about there. Oops. And then the last one, I'm going to pop this up again, but since it's hanging off the side, I have a little trick that I use, and because this is so small, I'm going to only use a 1/2 dimensional on each side and tilt it like that so that it's not going to show. And on this side, I'm going to use 2 little halves. Okay, take off the little film and put another one right on top of there. That way one side is thicker than the other, and so when I stick it down, it's going to be even. There. And now for the final detail, I'm just going to add a little butterfly right here. So again, I'm going to take a little piece of scrap paper, mint macaron. You can see I've been making butterflies already. my mint macaron ink, and I don't want this butterfly to be too dark. I want it to be pretty subtle. So I'm just going to stamp off once on a piece of scrap paper and then go ahead and stamp my butterfly. Perfect. And that just makes the color quite a bit lighter. I don't want that butterfly to look too dark. And with my petite butterfly punch, punch that out. Ah, it's already stuck on the card. And now I'm going to show you a little trick that I use to make my butterflies fly. I could just put that on with a glue dot or a dimensional and it would sit like that, but I always like to make my butterflies look like they're in motion. So I bend the wings up in two separate spots on either side of that little center caterpillar, and then taking a glue dot, I'm just going to put a glue dot right in the center of that butterfly. Make sure it comes up with the, there we go. Okay, and now I'm going to take my dimensionals, and from the edge of the dimensionals, there's usually a little piece of dimensional that you're not using. You can just cut that, and I want a thin strip, really thin like this, because this is a tiny little butterfly. So I'm just going to cut that strip. I don't need very much, and then I'm going to cut it in half, one for each wing. So the trick is that the closer I put this dimensional to the glue dot, the more but the butterfly will be closed like this. If you put it farther away, it'll be more open like that. And I don't want this one sticking out too much, so I'm going to go kind of halfway up the wings. If I wanted it real close, I'd stick this right next to the dimensional, or next to the glue dot. But I'm going to have my wings just kind of fluttering gently. So just a little bit further away. It's a little hard to deal with these tiny pieces, but there it is. And so then what happens is the center of the glue dot will hold the center of the butterfly right up against the card, and the dimensionals will push the wings up away from the card. So when I put it down, I'm going to press in the middle, and maybe you can see that the butterfly wings are tilted and not flat, and the center of the butterfly is flat up against the card. So there's the card. I hope you enjoyed it. Please visit my website for more tips and more ideas. Thank you very much. Bye.